Hi Year Sixes. Today we're discussing the transport of nutrients throughout the body. So the aim of this discussion is to understand the purposes of nutrients, and we would like you to know which unhealthy and healthy foods do you know about. So can you name any of the different food types? Do you know the names of any nutrients that your body need? And what are the purposes of the different nutrients? So just an overview of the important ones that we're looking at today. First one is carbohydrates. You find these in breads, cereals, pasta, rice, potatoes. They are the main source of energy for the body. They're broken down for energy, but they don't directly provide the building blocks for your body to grow. As for proteins do. They are, in simple and very accurate terms, the building blocks of the body. When your body builds new cells, when it puts DNA together, when you build new muscle, grow, your bones grow, your brain develops, the actual structure of the body is made out of proteins. Other nutrient that's also important for you is fats. So your body needs small amounts of fats. Fats and oils are very energy dense food. Like for a similar weight compared to carbohydrates, fats have very high energy values. They are essential nutrients in small cases for your nervous system and for your brain, but because they've got such an incredibly high energy value, they can cause weight gain very easily. The other nutrients that you also need, minerals. So this is a wide category as well. It's calcium salts that help your bones grow. It's a small amount of normal table salt that you need for your nervous system to work. It's potassium. It's a very wide variety of things. You need these in small amounts to keep you healthy. Just for a comparison, you need like half a gram or a gram of these per day to take in. You need, depending on your body weight and how active you are, anywhere between 20 and 120 grams of protein per day, like 80 to 150 grams of carbs per day. And vitamins, the last category, you need these to stay alive, but you don't need very large quantities. These are generally on the order of less than a gram. It's like milligrams of vitamin A, milligrams of vitamin B that you need every day. They're essential, you can't get away without them, but the quantities you need are very low. Second one, fiber. Fiber is not a nutrient directly. It's essential for your body, and it helps you digest food, and it has an important role in your body, keeps food moving through your digestive system, and it has a very good symbiotic effect for the bacteria and everything else that lives in your digestive system. But you don't digest this directly, but you do need it to be counted as a nutrient. And then a large one, which we don't always see as a nutrient, but is very essential to your body, water. So water is used in all of your cell activities. It forms a part of the fluid inside cells that allows them to conduct most of their processes. It is broken down in certain places to help form fats and other things. Very essential for your body. You need to keep your body hydrated for peak performance. Essential, and luckily for us, not very hard to get. Getting access to enough water is generally not the challenge. Other things might be. So using the information that we've spoken about in your own written work that you have access to, and by doing some of your own research under like supervision on the internet, we'd like you to make a table showing all of the nutrients we've just spoken about. What they're used for. Do they help hydrate your body? Do they help to build things? Do you need them for energy? Which of these, and then what foods you can find them. So once you've done that, take a single day's worth of food that you need and then design a healthy menu. And then for each of these meals, show us the range of nutrients that you need and how you get them. So we'd also like you to make a presentation about the different types of nutrients in some level of detail, and just tell us what they're for, what you need them, what purpose they serve in your body, and a little bit of how we get them. So the important thing, now that we've shown you, what nutrients you get, and we've told you that these nutrients are in food, you eat them, they enter your body and you use them. We want to open this up a little bit and see, how does your body actually take in food and turn it into health, life, bigger muscles, what's going on. So your body, when you eat things, takes food, breaks it up, and you start getting processed through the digestive system. So we'd like you to look here. We've labeled all of these points. Can you remember the names of different parts of your digestive system? So the first one that you use to swallow is your esophagus. The esophagus takes food from the mouth and deposits it down into the second part. Can you guess what that is for me? Yes, that is the stomach. So the stomach has its own functions. It helps digest food. Here at the bottom, a very important part as well, is the small intestine, where once food has been processed a little bit, the nutrients inside can be absorbed into your blood. And then the large intestine. This large intestine has a lot of functions to do with dewatering, processing waste. Also, all of these parts are essential. So we want to just chat about this in a bit more detail. The first part of your digestive system that we sometimes overlook a little bit is the mouth. So the mouth, we know, you chew food, you break it up so that you can digest it easier. I'm sure more than one of you has heard your parents tell you to chew your food properly. And this chewing process helps to break things into smaller bits so they can be digested. It's very important. But the mouth isn't only, you aren't just breaking things into smaller pieces. Your saliva, or better known as your spit, starts to break down the food chemically as well. It's not just this mechanical system where your teeth break it into smaller bits. You are actually chemically starting to break down food already the moment you start chewing it. Once you've chewed your food, it's a bit softer and it's beginning to break down chemically as well, so you can digest it. It goes down to your esophagus. The esophagus isn't just a tube. It's surrounded by muscles that move, that contract in this motion going down. So they squeeze in this repeating motion that goes down so that the food doesn't get stuck or doesn't flow properly. You chew it, get it into small enough soft pieces, and your esophagus pumps it down into your stomach. The stomach has a bunch of different roles. It's a place for food to continue breaking down chemically once your spit has started acting on it. It is a second place where your stomach introduces gastric fluids. This is a combination of acids and enzymes that further act to break down the food. It acts further on a chemical level to break down food into smaller and smaller pieces that your body can absorb later. And lastly, it has an additional effect where it moves around and churns food, and it makes sure, one, that all of the food that you eat is well mixed, which is important for the chemical part, so that these juices, the gastric juices and the saliva and things, are well distributed in the food. There's not one part that doesn't get touched by it and it doesn't break down. Everything's in good contact with each other. It's breaking down, and this action of the stomach moving food around at the same time that there's been chemically broken down helps to break down solid pieces even further. So once your stomach has spent all the time it needs to digest this food, break it into smaller pieces, make it nice and soft so it can move through your digestive system, it enters the small intestine. So at the bottom of the stomach there's a small valve, and it will squeeze a little bit, and then small amounts of food will start slowly moving through your small intestine. The small intestine works somewhat similarly to esophagus. It has this pumping motion where it moves, where you've got these contractions that move down the small intestine all the way down. But At this stage, the food is still breaking down chemically, and to some degree physically as well. But the action of the small intestine is to take these nutrients in the food that have been broken down into a form this small intestine can absorb, and then allow this to pass through the lining of the small intestine into the blood vessels that surround the small intestine and into your body where you can use it. So while it's traveling through the small intestine, it continues to break down, but the largest, most important role there is that it allows the nutrients to enter your bloodstream. Via your blood, it then enters into your liver, where it is broken down further and rearranged. So the small intestine acts to remove as much nutrition from food as possible. Your body tries to waste absolutely nothing of what you eat, but it can't absorb everything, and it doesn't have the capabilities to absorb certain things, and certain products kind of by design are not broken down because they are not wanted in your body. They're not nutritious for your body. They can in some cases have a negative effect. So a lot of things simply do not pass into the small intestine, either because do not pass across that barrier in your small intestine, either because they can't be broken down, or because they are left in a state where they aren't broken down on purpose, so that they aren't. So once you get into the large intestine, there's a process where water is slowly removed from this, also as not to waste water that comes into your digestive system. And then all of this waste that can't be used finally leaves your body in the form of a stool. So this process of absorption, especially in the small intestine, happens with the following thing. The inner surface of the small intestine is not flat. It has what are called they're called villi. They are approximately hair-like, but you can actually approximate what they look like if you just look at your pinky. So they work to increase the surface area, the opportunities where these molecules have to go into the bloodstream. And to facilitate this, all of them are going into the small intestine, so they've got a bit more reach. It gives them more area to work with, and they are filled with very, very small blood vessels. And these blood vessels allow the food to diffuse go through that very thin wall in the small intestine, enter the bloodstream. Once they've entered the bloodstream, they use your circulatory system, your veins, your heart, to get transported around the body to wherever they need it. So sugars get transported directly to the rest of the body. Your body can use sugars as is, and a lot of other things like protein are rearranged, broken down, built back up in the liver and other parts of your body, or in cells if they need them there. So the outside of the small intestine is called the serosa, the outer layer. In between the inner and the outer layer of the small intestine, there's this smooth muscle layer, and this muscle layer provides the contractions that force food and this digested slag from the stomach through the small intestine. The inner layer is called the submucosa. It provides the support for the villi, and the innermost layer is called the mucosa. And on this mucosa layer, you can find the individual villi. So in these, there is a vein, and coming out there's the arteries. And a single villi is the plural form. A singular villi is called a villus. So the process of elimination. Once everything that can't be digested has passed into the large intestine, so waste from the small intestine passed into the large intestine through the cecum into the large intestine. So once it enters there, all of this waste is squeezed out, so that as much water as possible is removed, This waste is then is much drier than when it comes in. It's stored in the rectum, and then once the time comes, it's pushed out of the body as feces through the anus. I just want to label these parts. This here is the cecum. It connects the small intestine to the large intestine. The ascending colon, food is pushed up here, and here there's more or less no nutrient removal. It's only water that gets removed here. It's pushed up, transverse colon, moving across the body, continuing to screen, and then you've got the descending colon. Sigmoid colon, it resembles this bend right here, and then the rectum where solid waste is stored before it gets pushed out as feces. Then anus right here at the bottom. This gives control over when the solid waste can be let out. There's, of course, I'm sure as you know to some degree, anus isn't the only place where waste can leave the body. The kidneys play an active role in filtering out waste from the blood. So the kidneys allow nutrients in the blood to flow to the rest of the body where they need it. They pass through, and then the waste is filtered out as urine and collects in the bladder. When the bladder is full and it starts to detect pressure, there's a signal that tells your brain go to the bathroom, and in general most people comply. Just an illustration of where everything is. You've got two kidneys on each side. You've got a uter here connecting each of the kidneys into the bladder here at the bottom. Just see on this illustration as well, there's blood flow coming into and through both of the kidneys. So this is kind of, the kidneys are a blood filtering station. So just to connect this as well, once the bladder fills up with urine, the pressure starts building, and when the time comes to go to the bathroom, the urethra acts as the transport. It's a little tube so everything can leave. We spoke about this a bit earlier. So the mouth is very much part of the digestive system. And just to give an idea of how it works, depending on what you're eating, food is generally chewed for between 5 and 30 seconds. The swallowing process is quite quick. It takes 10 seconds on average. Food spends a relatively large amount of time in the stomach. It's there for between 4 and 5 hours while the acids and different enzymes in the gastric juices continue to break everything down. The average transport time through the small intestine is also around 3 hours. It can vary based on the person and some of the some environmental factors like what you're eating, temperature, time, but it's more or less 3 hours for most. So for a fully grown adult, the intestines are 7 to 8 meter long there, and the villi, the combined surface area of the villi, is more or less that of a tennis court. So it's a long length. 6 to 8 meters is pretty long, but the surface area that they have for nutrients to cross that barrier into the bloodstream, that surface area is massive. So food waste, depending on how long it takes to process, spends between 18 hours to 2 days drying out in the lower intestine. It's a much slower process than nutrient removal through the small intestine. So we want to illustrate the breakdown of carbs. When we say nutrients are being broken down in the stomach, it's on a very low chemical level. So starches are sugar molecules that are linked together. They've got a chemical bond breaking them together, binding them together. And when you need to digest this, the body can't utilize a whole starch molecule and burn this as fuel. It needs to be broken down into sugar. Your body can use sugar directly as fuel, but not a whole long chain of starch. So there is an enzyme called carbohydrates that breaks the bond between these linked sugar molecules in the starch and then liberates them. So it breaks each one off in a chain, like it's this whole long chain. It breaks this one off, breaks this one off, breaks this one off, and then you've just got loose sugar molecules. Carbohydrates is introduced into the digestive system in a lot of places, but it is introduced in your mouth, a very large amount of it. So you can actually have this with bread or any other carbohydrate. Just when you would normally swallow, just keep on chewing it for like a minute or so. You'll start seeing that pretty quickly it starts breaking down into sugar, and you can taste the sweetness. You can do this for yourself. Like, it takes a bit of time, but that enzyme starts breaking down the starches in bread or pop into sugar. So it's similar for protein. Proteins are also these long chains or different amino acids linked together. And proteins are different from sugars in that there's not, in a carbohydrate, it's identical sugar molecules that are linked together. Proteins are not like that. There are a bunch of essential amino acids and then other non-essential amino acids that are the base. Like one of these, the basic unit of a protein molecule is an amino acid that's linked to another one. But there are a very large number of them. But luckily they're all linked together in a similar way, so you can use protease enzymes to also break them apart, break them into individual amino acids, and then once these are absorbed through the lining in the small intestine into the bloodstream, your cells in your body and your liver will start reassembling these into what your body needs. So they get broken down and then built back up again into whatever you want. Different part. Fat molecules have, again, a very different structure. They have a fatty acid on they call this a backbone, and this is a fatty acid. So they have fatty acids linked with a glycerol backbone. So there are some other classes of fats that have a different backbone, but if you're working with almost all of these, it's a glycerol backbone. There's a similar enzyme that breaks these into pieces. So it takes that link between the fatty acid and the glycerol molecule. These are not quite to scale, but they do show you quite well what's going on. There's 3 links. They act on each of these. 1, 2, 3. They break this chemical bond between them, and then you've got glycerol that's nice in solution, and you've got these fatty acids. These fatty acids sometimes need to be broken down further if they're a bit large, but a lot of them can pass directly into the bloodstream. You can absorb them and burn them as energy. Nutrients are, it's a broad definition of the things your body needs to survive in order to do that. So you need a lot of things. You need iron dissolved into your body for a lot of your enzymes to function. The same enzymes that transport oxygen around your body, some of these proteins, a lot of these enzymes that break down other nutrients like sugar need a bit of iron, selenium, copper, calcium, sodium, fluoride, magnesium, chromium. So you need trace quantities of all of these. So they don't need to be broken down. They are dissolved. They're not even molecules. They are smaller than that. They're dissolved atoms in most cases, and your body just absorbs them and distributes them through the bloodstream where they're needed. So these don't need to be broken down further. Vitamins, similarly, can just be taken out. They pass directly into the bloodstream through the small intestine. So the important ones that we'll speak of here is vitamin K, vitamin A. There's more than one variation on vitamin A. Vitamin B2, vitamin C, vitamin D that you get in cheese and a lot of animal products. So these are all essential nutrients that you need in small quantities for your body to thrive. So the other nutrients that you need, fiber is not a nutrient that you absorb into your bloodstream, but it is important. We mentioned this a bit previously. It's not absorbed, but it's essential for the functioning of your digestive system. Water also, it's a nutrient. It provides the solute for your body, like everything in your body and in your blood is dissolved into water. You need it to transport nutrients. You need it for cells to function properly, to move nutrients within themselves to the little bits where they're needed. Water is already a molecule. It's H2O. It's very small. It passes through that barrier into the blood very easily. So our learning outcome here, we want to show you the purpose and the function of these nutrients. So choose all or a specific section of the digestive system and show us a poster or a leaflet where you explain some of this, label the parts of the digestive system, and promote the importance of a healthy diet by explaining these concepts. What do you need for a healthy diet? How does this help provide everything? And once you've done that, choose one of the nutrients that your body needs to stay healthy. Research it in more detail. Research the foods where you can find it in more detail. How it's processed through the body once you eat, digest, and excrete what you don't need. And then its effect on your body. How does it help you to stay healthy? So just as an example, if you choose minerals or vitamins, you only need to choose a single one. Choose something like calcium or one of the vitamins like vitamin C, and show us how this is processed throughout the body, what parts of your body it's important for. So you have a choice here how to present your learning. A written report, a poster, a flyer would all be acceptable. But if you're specific, you might have more specific requirements from your educator. Follow their advice closely. So a learning outcome. So we want to, for the previous question, it's just an example of what we'd like this to look like to explain it well. So put your information into a table. So first one is what I know. So for instance, we've spoken about this. You know that vitamin C is found in fruit. Vitamin C doesn't last long in the body. Vitamin C helps you to not get colds, and vitamin C prevents scurvy. So information you might want to know about vitamin C. Where do you get it? We've spoken that it's important for your health, but how do you make sure you've got enough vitamin C? If you need and you suspect you might not be getting enough, where do you find foods that contain vitamin C? What are they? How effective is vitamin C in pill form, in a tablet that you get as a supplement versus eating it in food? And then what is in a bit more detail than what you spoke of previously, what is the role of vitamin C in the body? How does it help your body function well? And then once you have these questions, answer them. So you need to say a bit more about what vitamin C is. So if you research it in a bit more detail, you'll find that its chemical name is ascorbic acid. It's found in oranges, almost all citrus fruits. It's found in peppers, including spicy peppers, chilies, green peppers. It's found in a number of fruits that aren't, it's called ascorbic acid, but it's found in a number of fruits that aren't particularly sour, including broccoli and potatoes. And it plays a strong role in healing. It's needed for a number of cell functions when they start healing your body and the cells start replicating. So, guys, thank you for your time. We hope you have great education. This is Saving Grace Homeschools. Thank you.